Hello and welcome everyone to episode 72 of One Piece at a Time, the One Piece read-through podcast where we read and discuss 5 chapters of the One Piece manga each and every week. I'm your host, Derek Bittner, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-host and freelance letterer at Shonen Jump, Brandon Bovia. How you doing, Brandon?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm, of course, Brandon Bovia, manga letterer of stuff like Dragon Ball Super, Kaiju number 8, and many, many more. And I laugh to hide the tears.
Yep. The big moment that was coming finally happened, and God, it's just as brutal as I remember.
Yeah. It hurts.
Oh, it hurts.
This might be like some of the lowest lows we've seen these characters in.
I mean, we were talking about that last time about how it was just things kept hitting for the lows, but no, I think this is the true low point for the team.
Are you guys ready for rock bottom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh boy. It's the thing that gets me is that so many of these chapters, no jokes, no lightheartedness whatsoever. It is just
like that's really fascinating because I feel like even in some of the big serious stuff, there's always something that Oda uses to kind of lighten the mood, but not really. Like there's just like a lot of really serious stuff happening.
Oh yeah, and it's interesting because it's on one hand there's a lot to talk about, but not a lot to cover. It's weird.
Yeah.
So we'll see how this all goes as we get into chapter 331, The Big Argument. And okay, something's happening with Gadatsu. He's digging with the Earth Boss, and maybe something's happening. I don't know. I feel like we're at that wapple point where it's like, oh right, Oda found the plot.
Right, yeah, exactly. You got to establish the joke, overuse the joke, and right, we're at the part where we're moving on.
Pretty much.
Maybe we'll see. I still kind of feel nothing at this cover story so far, but God, this is volume 16.
Right. It just shows how little has happened with Gadatsu. Yeah. But there's a lot of other things happening in the manga itself as the government officials are leaving in a huff. Just calling Iceberg stubborn and, don't know if he really has something. We really don't know. But he just sort of watches them leave. And Khalifa comes in asking about the meeting. And she asks why they come here. And all he says is, he wants something I have. And he comes to me with all kinds of conditions. Is it valuable? Well, I tell him I know nothing about such a thing and chase him away. So we don't really know. But the crazy thing here is for some reason he has Nico Robin's wanted poster.
And not only that, I think we actually skimmed over this in the last episode. Like, there's a little throwaway line when Iceberg is talking to Luffy, where it's like, by the way, is there a woman named Nico Robin on your crew? So, like, the fact that he has interest in her has already been established.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just sort of flew over my head. It
was kind of a, like, oh, yeah, that's a weird thing to ask.
There's minute details that I forget, like in certain connections. I don't remember any kind of connection between these two, I'll be honest. I can't think of one at all.
It's interesting. Whatever Iceberg is doing seems to be working to the fact that, what's his face? Corgi? The government official?
Yeah.
Where he's just like, I don't even know if he really has it. And then Iceberg's like, yeah, I have it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we don't know what it is, but he's pretending to not know, clearly.
But that's all we get from Iceberg for now. Instead, we go back to the Mary where Usopp is awake. And Robin still has not returned, as Sanji keeps noting. But Luffy's happy. And as soon as they go inside, Usopp is just full of apologies. It's because all that money was gone. It's fine. It's all my fault. You guys weren't able to get the money back. And Luffy's laughing like normal. He's like, don't worry about it.
Laughing it off.
Yeah. It's like, until this Frankie guy comes back, we don't know if we can. And if we don't get it back, we still have 100 million. So no worries. Nami's, of course, like, it is a worry. It's our money. And it's just like, I appreciate, especially before we get into this, how Luffy's trying to act normal.
Yeah. And it feels very much like a laugh it off, like he already knows that, this is a hard choice to come to.
Yeah.
And so, he's just kind of looking on the bright side. Like, we still have 100 million, there's no worries.
Yeah, we got something to work with here. And Usopp, of course, is still worried. But it's like, is 100 million enough to fix Mary? We need to make sure she's strong enough. And this is where Luffy, like, this is the frustration with Luffy right here, where he doesn't like try to break it to Usopp in a gradual manner. He just goes, I decided to switch ships. We owe a lot to Going Merry, but this is as far as she'll sail. And that just immediately puts Usopp on the back foot. And he's just like, yeah, I've been looking at the ships to replace her. We have 100 million, but it's we can get one bit that's bigger, but it'll have to be secondhand. And, Usopp's like, wait, what? Like, right. Back up here.
From Usopp's perspective, this is really sudden. And really from the reader's perspective, too. Because you see, like, I guess that's the fascinating thing about never really seeing Luffy's inner thoughts. Because, we saw that conversation with Iceberg where he was, just like, we're never going to abandon the Merry. And then after they fight, the Frankie family is sort of when he flips that switch. It was at the end of last episode where he was like, okay, I've made my decision. And so this whole scene feels like, God, and just thinking about that line that Iceberg had about kind of, just like about what leadership means to Luffy and his approach to leadership in this moment. And this sort of feels like an overcorrection, right?
A little bit.
Of him trying to be so steadfast in a decision.
Yeah, that he's just sort of breaking in. And Usopp is the most connected to the ship by far.
Yep.
And he's just like, oh God, it's because the money got stolen that we don't have enough to actually fix her. And we have to get a new ship. And Luffy's like, no, that's not it. And then explain. It's like, getting the money stolen has nothing to do with it. Then why'd you bring up the idea of changing ships? And then it just starts getting into a shouting match, and everybody's trying to be like, hey, calm down. Yep. And that's when Luffy finally reveals that the Merry cannot be repaired any further. It's impossible. And I would not tell you if there was any other way. Yeah, he's not. It's heartbreaking because you understand why he's so into the ship and why Luffy was so into it. But it's just like he's looking at the same, like, I think seeing Usopp almost beaten to death triggered something. It was like, I don't want to lose my crew. I don't want us to sink.
Exactly. Yeah, it's sort of, and like on the other side of it though, like from Usopp's perspective, feels like he has something to prove, and it feels like he's kind of constantly becoming the burden of the crew. So he doesn't. It's just it's this really fascinating thing where I feel like I understand where both characters are coming from in an argument, which is really rare in media. I feel like, and kind of underappreciated, where it's so often that you see like an argument between two characters that's kind of like dumb or contrived or very obviously just trying to like stoke the drama. But like this 331 chapters in, you kind of know where both characters are standing on this issue, especially Usopp, who's been shown taking care of the ship the most.
Yeah. Every step of the way, he's the one that's been fixing it up and all that. And he immediately switches to, a common thought process. So you're being swindled and you're accepting this.
Right. Yeah. That's the perspective that he takes.
Yeah. It's like you think these guys are first rate, so you believe them immediately, and you're just going to abandon her here, abandon the ship. And apparently that's all it means to you. Like it ended up meaning nothing. And he's yelling so badly, it's actually hurting him.
Yeah, and he's just getting visibly angrier at the idea that,
Luffy just is like, all right, so you're an expert now? The crew doesn't have a carpenter. That's why we went to these guys to check it out. And Usopp's like, don't bother asking people like that. I'll fix it up like I always have. That's how we've done it so far. And like, all right, need your help. We need some lumber. We'll get some more stuff. We can buy stuff. I'm going to be busy. And Luffy's finally like, Usopp, you're not a carpenter.
Yeah. And that again, to what I said earlier, that feels like Usopp trying to find his role in this crew. And especially, after having the money stolen and being too weak, it feels like this is kind of all he can do, and Luffy's taking that away from him.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, because he's not strong, he can't navigate, he can't do a lot of this other stuff. He's been a makeshift carpenter, making it go for how long, but he's the sharpshooter, and that's a role that doesn't really get to be used that often. And yeah, it's Usopp trying to find his place and just becoming angry that is being taken from him. You've pretty much nailed it there, I think. And just declaring, I will never turn my back on this ship. And I can't believe you got suckered into this. How can you call yourself the ship's captain? I misjudged you.
Yeah, that I feel like that is. kind of the breaking point for Luffy here, because he is doing this kind of to protect everybody, and now it is like he has had to come to a hard choice, and now here's Usopp saying like you've made the wrong choice,
and it's the second time his leadership's been called into question. First by Iceberg, now by Usopp. Basically, his leadership got called into question when he sided with Usopp's point of view by Iceberg, but then he was like, okay, I think Iceberg's right, and immediately got called into question by Usopp. So, two very different sides of the coin, but this time Luffy holds fast. It's like, I've made my decision. Nothing you can say will change my mind, so we have to part with the going merry. It finally boils over to the point where Usopp is just berating Luffy. Not everyone's able to be as optimistic like you, but I can't turn my back on an injured comrade and go back out to sea. And Luffy's like, you can't compare a ship to a human being. And Usopp's immediately like, no, they're the same. Mary has an inner strength to keep on living, but you're probably just excited about a new ship. You're only just pretending to care about the Mary, and that sets Luffy off.
Yeah, and then at this point, they're just at each other's necks.
Yeah. To the point that Luffy almost says, if you don't like my way of doing things, you can just take this opportunity to, and he's about to say, leave. And Sanji steps in and kicks him off.
Yeah, good on you, Sanji.
Yeah. Whew. The tensions here.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I like Sanji here, with a voice of reason, saying, cool down, or you end up saying things that you'll regret. And, Luffy acknowledges that he was kind of crossing the line there.
But Usopp's just like, no, that's probably how you actually feel. Just get rid of useless shipmate after useless shipmate. And if you're going to abandon the ship, why not do that to me as well? And he just was like, I've been thinking about this for a while. I can't keep up with the monstrous powers of you guys. I couldn't even guard the money. So I'm just a burden. And you don't need weak shipmates. So if you're going to be Pirate King, I don't have that kind of ambition. You guys just invited me on. That's our only connection. So there's no sense in traveling together when we have different views now. So I quit.
Yeah. Wow. And that's it.
It's, again, Otis has been setting this up, this character progress with Usopp. There's that questioning him and how he's had his victories for sure. But he always, how can he compare to people like Sanji and Zoro and Luffy?
I feel like this is a really, because in adventure stories, there's, having characters like Usopp, having, the quote unquote normal one is really common. But I think because he is contrasted so strongly with just like the cartoonishly, over the top strength that, Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji have, and just, you see like kind of those doubts brewing in little, bits and pieces, and like actually kind of having it all come to a head here, and to have it actually mean something, that like Usopp's role in the crew wasn't just played for laughs. I mean, it was, but like there is an actual point to it, and then sort of bringing that his journey as a character like to this point, like it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does. And Nami's saying you can't. Sanji's saying come back. Zoro's just sort of staying quiet and observing all this.
Yeah, he's been quiet the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Chopper's in tears at the thought of all this. And Usopp steps off the ship, turns back, and says, fight me for the Mary. If I win, I'm taking it. Fight me. And that's how he ends. Oh, God.
Yeah.
And the thing here is that we know Usopp can't win.
Yeah, just straight off the bat, like we can just there's no chance here.
No chance.
But Oda knows that, and he knows we know that.
Yeah, and that's where it gets interesting. But yeah, not a single joke that chapter. It is just
not a single one. Yeah,
and just getting all the lines in the sand.
Yeah. I want to shout out the anime version of this scene is incredible, and this argument is maybe one of my favorite scenes in the whole manga, especially now having reread it with the context of the past 300 odd chapters, and just kind of remembering where the characters had been up to this point and kind of all the little seeds that Oda had been planting. Like this isn't something that you get for free. This isn't something that like comes out of nowhere. It's just like the perfect time to kind of introduce conflict within the crew and within, we're finally kind of getting like different characters, kind of different ideals kind of clashing.
Pretty much. So let's see that clash with chapter 332, Luffy versus Usopp, where, hey, Gadatsu hit pay dirt. They got their hot spring. Good for them.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I hadn't really thought about it because I've been zoning out during this entire cover story. But I guess if they're digging for a hot spring, it makes sense to have a oh, you found a giant mole. Yeah, of course.
Honestly, I like the mole best. I like that's a good mole.
Yeah, good for you.
But yeah, getting back into it, Luffy's just sort of hanging out in the bunks and in his we don't really see that too often. All the hammocks for the guys, and Nami's like begging, stop this. The two shipmates battling each other isn't right. So just cool off. And Usopp lost it because you came to your decision so unexpectedly. And I think she's sort of the voice of the audience at that point.
Right. Yeah. You could just apologize and talk it over.
Yeah. And Luffy, with a look on his face that we do not see often. Honestly, it looks a lot like Ace there.
I was going to say, between last chapter and this one, like there's a lot of facial expressions. Like it's not just like it's a specific type of like silent anger. Mm-hmm. You don't see from Luffy very often. And like this was sort of the moment when I had realized like Oda's art had really come a long way. I mean, we had been pointing out how like detailed the backgrounds were, once we got to Water 7, but like I think that just like the way that he draws the characters is, even compared to Skypiea, feels like it's significantly leveled up.
Yeah. I mean, we had those flashbacks of Usopp joining the crew, and you could see the contrast right there because he just
exactly.
Like it's pretty stark. We get the lineup here of it's at 10 o'clock that night. They're going to be fighting it over, and Luffy's just like, yeah, it's too late. Things have been said, and Usopp isn't foolish enough to wager his life over a temper tantrum. So if it was something that could be patched up, it wouldn't have come to this in the first place. So just leave me alone for now. I've heard you. And another argument is broken out of Sanji's like, hey, if you had properly beaten up the Frankie family with what that happened, we wouldn't have had to go through all of this. And Sora's like, well, if you hadn't left, we would have been able to help me. And Sanji's like, hey, we needed essentials. And Nami immediately is like, stop fighting. Yeah. These things can't be changed.
Man, shout out to Nami trying to keep everybody together in this situation.
She's kind of the underrated star of this as far as just trying to keep that peace. And then Chopper comes back because he wanted to treat Usopp's wounds, but he just pushed Chopper away and said, you and I are no longer shipmates, so go back to the ship. And Chopper is so heartbroken. You feel bad for him.
Heartbroken.
It's his big brother.
Yeah, and I hadn't realized, but like by that line of dialogue, like Usopp already considers himself not part of the crew. Yeah, it's not sort of like I guess that's sort of the interesting thing about this duel is like there are stakes if Luffy, like loses or like Usopp's trying to get the Mary, but like there's nothing for the other side. I guess it's not like thing. Suddenly like, it's not like, oh, if you lose, like you're staying on the crew, it's I've already left and I'm fighting you to take the Mary with me. Mm-hmm.
And there's really no reason for Luffy to fight other than Usopp's pride.
Yeah, and I guess that's like Luffy knows that too.
Yeah, I think he still considers him a friend because he is trying to his best to preserve Usopp's pride.
Yeah, exactly.
And Nami, those pointed lines, all the great times we've had seem like a big lie now. And on top of all this, if something happened to Robin, I feel like our crew is falling apart. Because, we're down to 5 now. We have no idea where Robin is. Usopp is left.
Robin's gone. Usopp's left. Yeah. And then meanwhile, like, just like the tension, I feel like has never been higher with this crew. And that's the thing I love so much about this sequence. Like, it just, it is. It's gold.
And that standoff between Luffy and Usopp, that is gorgeous.
Yeah, that spread, just with all of the smoke billowing. Again, something I think the anime does a lot of justice to this section of the story. But so if you can, I would suggest watching like those couple of episodes with this argument in this fight, because I think that the voice performances and the music add a whole lot to it.
Luffy's like, all right, you didn't lose your nerve, so no matter what happens, don't regret it. You chose the fight. And Usopp's like, I've already figured out how to bring you down. And Luffy's already told the others not to interfere.
Yeah, is that bit about pride from before?
I like the statement from Usopp. Don't lump me in with the enemies you faced up till now. They didn't know your tricks. We've known each other a long time, so I know your powers well. He immediately begins with the 8,000 henchmen. And I think this is also a sign of just how, like, it seems silly.
Yeah.
But this is the kind of stuff that would have affected Luffy before. He would have been like, what, 8,000? Like, he's believed it in the past when he met Usopp. And then he's like, I know you don't have that many henchmen. And then he's doing the voodoo thing where the razor blade running between each of your teeth. And he's just immediately lining up for the gum. Like, it's...
Yeah. Well, I do like that. It works on Chopper, which is cute.
The whole go to your room if you can't take it. And Luffy runs up to punch him with a gum, and Usopp just immediately keels over, is coughing up blood, but it reveals that it's actually his ketchup star. He's like, what, pity for your enemy? Before using the flash dial, it's like, oh, damn, Usopp.
Bringing the dials back.
Yeah. And starts pelting Luffy with the egg star, the rotten eggs. And Luffy's like, hey, get serious. And Luffy's like, and Usopp's like, this is how I fight.
Yeah. This is such a wonderful display for Usopp. Just like, I mean, he is, again, pride shaken, not very confident in himself right now, but like this fight is like the truest expression of who Usopp is. He's the trickster and the marksman.
Yeah. And he knows Luffy. He keeps the pressure up on Luffy. And it's honestly a super impressive display.
Yeah.
To immediately go for the egg, to the pepper sauce to keep Luffy off guard there, having him stumble into all the cow trips, and getting all that set up against him.
I think particularly with the caltrops and the shuriken, it's just like, that Luffy's main weakness is, bladed objects. So it's all kind of like Usopp is basically using like the gimmicks to lead him into like the actual danger. And it's working. Yeah.
He's able to guide him straight into a wind dial, filling out smoke. And he basically surrounds him with gas that he ignites with a fire start, unleashing an explosion that shakes the Mary.
Yeah. Oh, man. We'll come back to that. But like, this is just... I don't know. I'm still impressed by this whole, like, just Usopp managing to kind of have Luffy on the back foot and just like reusing the dials from Skypiea, because I feel like he was he was the one who was already kind of the most interested in them. Mm-hmm. So I don't think we saw. Oh no, I guess in the Davy back fight he had one.
He had one, but that's it. He didn't really use them like this.
Right, and now we're seeing he's been packing heat this whole time.
Oh yeah, he has, and it's just every step of the way. Like, this did not go. I guarantee, like watching this the first time, this did not go the way I expected. And
because you would just think like, oh, Luffy's just gonna punch him and it'll be over.
Yeah, and instead, Luffy's on his back, just like kind of, I don't even know how to explain that expression. He's just so dead serious.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's hard to say whether Luffy, Usopp, or even the Mary are the ones having those flashbacks to them seeing islands together and getting excited. And the way the splash happened on the Mary makes it look like it's crying. It's like, oh, yeah, God, that's so...
That hurts. It hurts so much.
Oh, God.
That is it is a brilliant image.
Yeah. So smart.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
That. I'm just... And you think about it, it really does like kind of make you tear up.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, these are, the Mary has been a part of the crew for as long as Usopp, and they're, the Mary is as much a Straw Hat as Usopp is. So just kind of like, you could sort of read it as like the Mary is kind of like watching two of their best friends, fight it out.
Yeah, exactly. But let's see how this fight concludes with chapter 333, Captain. And that explosion of water brought out the forest boss. So, okay.
All right.
We're just getting all kinds of bosses here. But yeah, we see all the smoke on the edge of town and just Luffy still laid out on the ground. Usopp breathing heavy, and he's like, yeah, I know you're not going to die for something like that. So, come at me. And gets his slingshot out, ready to shoot him. But Luffy immediately starts going with Gum Gum Gatling. Unleashes the Cactus Star, which sends even more spikes into Luffy and exploding
Yeah,
stars.
again, like... God,
he's still controlling this fight.
Yeah, I kind of thought, because I feel like this is sort of the cadence that a lot of One Piece fights go, where like kind of one chapter, one character's on the back foot, and then kind of the next chapter, and you kind of see the other character take the advantage for a little bit, and there's kind of like, this back and forth. Not really.
Yeah, no. Although Luffy is finally able to get a hit in with his Gum Gum pistol, and then tries to finish off Usopp with the bazooka. But damn, Usopp has the impact dial at the ready, absorbs the bazooka, and sends it straight back into Luffy's face.
Yeah. I feel like this hurts to watch, extra much because, Usopp is already kind of going through it. He's not in top physical form, but even if he were, the use of, the impact dial on Luffy's own attack would probably still shake him up a bit.
Thank God it's not a reject dial.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh.
But the thing is...
Wiper, you are not.
Luffy's still standing after that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of fear-inducing in that way. It actually upsets Usopp. And it makes you wonder one of two things. Is Luffy that strong that he's able to take his own bazooka and multiply back at him? Or is that a sign of how he's actually kind of going easy on Usopp and holding back?
Good question. You know what? Yeah, I think there's a part of me that believes that Luffy kind of has been holding back. I mean, you saw that at the start of the fight where Usopp was, he kind of coughed up fake blood, and that was enough. Like Luffy had enough hesitation in his heart to kind of not, to not go in for that. So I think throughout this whole fight, you could. I would think that Luffy doesn't want this. He doesn't want to fight.
No.
Yeah. I think you see that with Luffy getting back up, and that's just like that anger in Usopp's face of just like
he's been playing.
It's kind of like despite his best effort, like he can't bring him down.
No. And all it takes is one more Gum Gum bullet as everybody looks at it. Nami's crying. Usopp. It's because he's always calling out Usopp. Chopper's crying. And Usopp goes down with that last punch, and that's the end of the fight.
And then just all the the flashbacks and stuff, and you see that scene of just like that one panel of the Jolly Roger just flapping in the wind. You're just like, man, it's the symbolism.
Oh yeah.
Oh right, yeah, because it's you see the flag, and then you flash back to Usopp painting the flag. Yeah. So it's just kind of like there's his mark on this crew. Like he is.
He's almost like the heart of the crew.
Exactly. Yeah.
He's a little bit of everything, and
there's marks of, again, just like all the repairs to the Mary and stuff. Like there's Usopp's influence is all over. I guess is what I wanted to say.
Yeah, and I think especially this fight for a lot of people solidifies why Usopp is their favorite character.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like if it wasn't for Robin, Usopp's probably my second favorite character. And Luffy just says, it's upset. There's no way you could defeat me, you idiot, and just picks up his hat.
That panel with just again like the billowing smoke in the background kind of faded out, and just letting those two characters kind of like live in that bottom panel, I think it's excellent. It was an excellent layout.
And Nami's upset. She just can't take it anymore. And Luffy just says, do what you want with the Mary. We're going to find a new ship, and we're going to ship and keep sailing forward. And all those flashbacks, all those times together with each other. And he always says this, so long, it's been fun. And Chopper desperately wants to look after him and be a doctor to him. And Sanji stops him. He's like, he lost the challenge. The last thing he needs is his pity. Think about how that make him feel, because excessive kindness just hurts the vanquished even more. He made the challenge knowing what it would happen.
And I feel like, to point it out, like, the thing about, I guess, like, pity is that, like, Luffy is already pitying him by giving him the Mary.
Yeah.
Is the thing. And it's sort of like, don't rub salt on the wound.
Mm-hmm. And you can just see how much is breaking up Luffy too. It's too much. And
Yeah.
Zoro just says that's the burden of being a captain. So don't doubt yourself. If you start becoming unsure, who can we have faith in? And
one of just my favorite Zoro lines too.
yeah,
And again, just like I had remembered that Zoro said this, but I think the kind of like the subtle subplot about Luffy's leadership as a captain I had forgotten about. Like again, starting with Iceberg, and then kind of his steadfast decision to leave the Mary. It's just like Luffy's confused in this moment.
yeah,
And he's, just I don't know if I've ever seen him say this is too much.
no, this
Like
this is
after
we've seen
everything
Luffy
that they've been
defeated,
through.
but this
Yeah.
he has trouble bouncing back from.
Yep.
I like this. I like that it's not just Luffy needs to become strongest in order to become king of the pirates. It's he needs to learn leadership to become king of the pirates. And we've seen good leadership from him in the past, but it's also been challenged by Vivi, by certain other characters, and this is kind of the culmination of that in a way.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing I love about kind of One Piece's storytelling. Is like, because I mean, God, we are, like 10, 15 chapters into this arc, and I feel like, like a typical kind of like shonen manga or an adventure story, you're just like, oh, we got to beat the bad guy, and then that'll be our friendship, but no, this is actual, just kind of letting the character drama breathe, and I think just as much as I love this kind of sequence of events, I had really forgotten how much of an effect it has on Luffy as a character, and how much it kind of tests him and pushes him.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking to see the three silly ones, the three silliest characters, all crying because Chopper leaves the medicine, doesn't treat him, but leaves medicine for Usopp, and Luffy's crying underneath his hat. Chopper's crying as he comes back, and we can see Usopp laying on the ground also in a pool of tears, and it's just like none of them want this. It's just
none of them want this. Yeah, and then just like that, ending the chapter, those last two lines, "We can never return to this ship." It's just like, damn.
Yeah.
It's rough.
It is. So let's get to chapter 334, Big Trouble in the Secret Room, which, I mean, it's a cool full page spread, but it's also kind of bittersweet after what we've been through, just seeing them all happy again.
Oh, yeah. I feel like there are going to be a few like that.
Yeah, that seems likely. Either way, we're back at Water 7. We see the flag. We see Usopp lying on the ship, and everything's empty, cleared out, clean, and there's no satisfaction there. He's just dark eyes and just a cold wind blows, basically.
Yeah. I'll talk about, we're kind of going to get into this in a little bit, I think, but I kind of forgot to point out that, like, while that whole argument and the, preceding fight was happening, like, the weather has gotten noticeably cloudier and windier.
And actually, there's a aspect of this I didn't even realize. I wondered about it, but I didn't look properly till now. They really did clear out from the ship. Nami even took her orange grove, her tangerines.
Oh, God. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. The tangerines have been dug up and taken with her, which, honestly, to dig up those trees is pretty impressive.
Yeah. I had noticed that they had cleaned out, but wow, even the tangerines. Wow.
Which makes sense, but it's also just like it's losing a lot of that personality that the Mary had.
It just feels so dead. Like, it feels empty. It the Mary's still there, but she's lost her soul.
And the other aspect is it does not let up. And that's what's so impressive about Water 7. It just does not stop, because you got all this other personal stuff happening with the crew. But now, the next morning, everybody's just in a buzz because something happened at the shipbuilding island last night. And everybody's wondering, like, what's going on? What's this? What's this all about? And eventually, we're at an inn that all the crew's staying at. And Nami comes in and says, Iceberg was shot at his own home.
Wow. Yep.
Yeah.
I had actually I'd forgotten about this. Before we'd started, like, that, and it just it is immediately
Yeah,
after
there's
losing
no
Usopp.
time to let up. Like, everybody's kind of not been able to sleep. Sanji's been trying to keep an eye out for Robin to let her know what's going on, but she hasn't shown up yet. And that's when Nami shows up and says that. It's just like, what the heck?
And apparently he was, he's in a coma, not responsive.
All the others are being known. Paulie finds out. He's like, he doesn't have a lot of enemies, so what's going on there? Apparently he was discovered in his room this morning covered in blood, and as you said, still in a coma. So all the shipbuilders are heading there to meet up. Basically, the town's in a panic because if anything happens to him, it's the end of Water 7 and the Galley Law Company. And here's the strangest part is the office was a mess, but there's no sign that money was stolen, so it doesn't seem to be a robbery. So Lulu wonders, is the work of the government? Because, Corgi was always turned away, so could he be holding a grudge? And Kaku's like, let's not accuse the government. We can get in trouble if we do that.
Yeah, let's not do that. But I mean, it is interesting. Like, that is sort of a subtle part of the way that they introduce Iceberg, because he is such a beloved figure in Water 7, and you get just enough time with him to understand his place in the setting and to get kind of attached. He's kind of a silly character. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of like, well, damn.
Yeah.
And I think just like that little interaction with Corgi too is kind of like, who could have done this? Like, that is kind of maybe the only.
It's kind of like all of a sudden we have as we find out, it's not a murder, but a murder mystery happening while all this other stuff is going on.
Yeah, exactly.
All these newspapers are being rained over the city. It's just showing how crazy it is. Paulie is upset and trying to figure out what's going on. And Luffy's even kind of surprised. It's like, wonder what's all that about. And Luffy's just like, everyone loved and respected him. I gotta go check this out. And Nami's like, I'm coming too.
Yeah.
Those two are off to see what's going on with Iceberg. Sanji and Chopper are going to go search for Robin. And Zoro is just going to see what happens.
Just hanging back.
Yeah.
He's been so chill throughout this whole thing.
He's been very observant. That's sort of been his thing. It's like, and I get it. He's not the hothead other than with Sanji, but that's, play fighting basically. Mm-hmm. But then we see the train arriving, and it's the return of Frankie as he steps off the train. So, what's going on with that? And finally we go to Iceberg's house, and Khalifa's crying. Hattori the pigeon is there. So
Lucci,
Rob Lucci, that's it. They're all just watching over. Even Tyrannosaurus is there watching over.
And they just met, and he's already worried about him.
Mm-hmm. But we get information from the doctor. He was shot twice from the front and 3 times from the back. Which, don't know what happened, but it looks bad. So none of the locks in the office were forced open, so no one could have gotten in from the outside. And all that was left at the scene of the crime was a mask that you could find anywhere, which...
Let's get the masks back.
Yeah, that's definitely an issue. And Paulie arrives and just pushes past all through the press because, the press is always annoying for people like this.
I'm kind of amused that this might be our first time seeing the press in the world of One Piece. It's like, they got the paparazzi. That's
funny. They do. And then... we see Nami and Luffy headed there, wondering if they'll even be able to see him. But Frankie arrives back at the Frankie house and sees what happened.
The remains of the Frankie house.
Yeah. He's like, this is definitely where the Frankie house once stood, but this is brutal. There's 2 girls with him. He's like, what the heck is going on? And he's like, oh, it's them. It's like, gee, you messed with pirates. I wonder why that would have happened.
Yeah. Hey, you beat up their crewmate.
Gee, it's almost like they want to get revenge or something. Weird that.
There's so much going on.
Oh gosh,
there are so many subplots
every character
happening.
has something going on right now. It feels like
it's so impressive to watch it play out.
Yeah, it's why it's so easy to just like binge this.
Yeah,
it's really hard not to.
Yep.
Oh, goodness. But yes, let's get to our final chapter for this session, 335, Warning. And the Sky Boss, who made the Forest Boss his henchman. So it's just a repeat of the original. So why do I get the feeling we're going to be building something thanks to the Forest Boss now? But Kadatsu just punching out the Animal Kingdom. Sure, why not?
Well, that's good leadership, I guess.
I guess so. So we're back with Frankie, and he's like, "So this is how he gets back to me. How dare you mess with my darling lackeys? It's unforgivable."
Darling lackeys. Darling lackeys is a very fun turn of phrase.
Right. Like they all show up, and they actually do show up. And he's like, "Hey, you guys okay?" He's like, "They trashed the place. You got to make them pay. Been keeping tabs on that Straw Hat Gang, and all right, where are they? They're at an inn at town, heading toward a shipbuilding island. So they'll be at Dock 1. And so, all right, we got it. Frankie's a cycle of revenge continuing on as Frankie wants a confrontation. Time
for payback.
But hey, we're actually back with Kokoro. I did not expect to see her for a long time, to be honest, or even if at all. And we see, as you mentioned, the wind is getting strong. And it's a southern wind, and the waves are getting rough. She's like, well, looks like the sea train won't be running tonight, not in this weather. So let's return to the island, because something called Aqua Laguna is on its way. And, you know, I play something here as this was as just now with this whole scene. And the way the tension has been ramping up through this arc. This reminds me of Jurassic Park in a way.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. You have that tension of everybody's kind of split up. Something's going wrong. People are trying to get back and figure out what's going to happen. And all of a sudden, this gigantic storm is coming in as things build upon each other.
Yeah.
A lot of moving pieces.
Weather is a really good shorthand to kind of, express like the mood of a scene, and kind of having it, as we'll see, kind of like this is a somewhat regular occurrence. And that's kind of tied to the setting of Water 7.
I don't know. Gives me chills. It makes me excited.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
As soon as that happens, we get an advisory from the Weather Bureau. The Aqua Laguna Resort alert is happening. And they're like, all right, it is that time of year. We should probably notify everybody and be prepared for that. And that's when Sanji's like, okay, what's Aqua Laguna? And somebody's like, oh, basically a high tide. Get someplace high up because the town will be submerged in seawater. Like, what?
Oh, it's an annual thing. You're like, what?
Yeah. And it's going to hit at about midnight. Sanji's like, well, we'd better hurry and find Robin because what the heck's going on here?
Yeah.
And it almost feels like a ticking clock has just been established.
Yeah, exactly. Like the weather's getting worse. At some point, basically the entire town will be inaccessible.
Yeah. But the paparazzi is still outside the head office. And we got Tilestone as of the Galley Law Company is like, shut up. We'll tell you if anything happens. Just go away. And Luffy and Nami arrive and they're just like, yep, it's just a huge crowd of people. Not really going to be able to make our way into there. And Luffy's just like, I have to meet the ice guy one more time. And just seems to be no way to get in. Like everybody just demands to know what's going on. And we finally get our one piece of silliness in these set of chapters.
Why do I hear boss music?
That's pretty much what it is. Because Frankie has no idea what's going on, apparently. Hasn't seen anything.
He's been out of town for a day. What happened?
Music starts playing and everybody's like, oh, God, not that beat. And he starts calling out. It's like, did someone just call my name? I was like, nope, we didn't call you. Get lost. And he's dancing behind a curtain. He's just like, sit back and listen to my name. And everybody's like, you're the one who attacked Iceberg. Get off this island. And it's just sort of berating him the entire time.
Yep.
And that's when he declares himself the number one hero on the island, the hidden face of Water 7. And he pounds the ground, shows himself, got Popeye arms as we finally get the full reveal of Frankie.
I love Frankie. Now that we've finally seen him in the flesh, Speedo and all. He's a weirdo. Even for One Piece, this guy, he's a grade A weirdo.
Just full on Popeye arms, a metal plate on his nose, sunglasses, a kind of Elvis-ish hairstyle, Hawaiian shirt. And as you said, Speedo. And it's like an M chin. Like it's a very strange design
Yes.
for Frankie here. But I have a friend who loves Frankie. And whenever he like hears about the character, he will make that exact pose with that he's making with his star on his arms.
It's a very God, it's such an iconic pose too.
Yeah.
And again, the anime with the voice actor for Frankie, both dub and sub, I think they do a fantastic job. Just kind of God, he's such a Frankie's such a lovable weirdo. So. Glad to have him here.
Yep. And we get the Square sisters that went with him, Kiwi and Mozu with their crazy hairstyles.
I'm gonna forget which one is which.
Yeah,
I just will.
Kiwi apparently is also wearing the Speedo, so
yeah,
we'll see if we can remember that. But yeah,
one I think Kiwi has the wavy afro and Mozu has the blocky afro.
Oh, okay, sure.
Maybe that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not gonna remember. I'm just not.
And he's like, oh God, it's going to be a fight. And he starts calling out for Straw Hat. He's like, Luffy's like, who is the weirdo? And he's like, and Nami's like, I think he said his name was Frankie. He's like, wait, Speedo guy. I'm Luffy. He's like,
all right.
Like, realizes who it is. It's like, oh, we're throwing down.
Yep.
Oh boy. But Khalifa comes out and reports that Iceberg has just regained consciousness. Everybody's happy, gets reported. Everybody's celebrating, like, oh, thank God he's okay. So they come into
surprising,
Iceberg.
Considering he got shot 5 times.
Yeah, it's One Piece. You know how bullets work.
It's sure.
Bullets aren't fatal unless they need to be. And he wakes up, still very much bandaged up. And they're like, all right, we'll take care of the shipyard. Don't worry about it. The Iceberg's immediately like, so last night, the one who entered my room, oh, that's still under investigation. Like, no, I remember. There were 2 of them. One was a large guy with a mask, and the other was a tall, black-haired woman who had to be Nico Robin. It's like, oh, God, she's gone back to her assassination ways.
Right. Well, see, I don't know exactly how things play out here, so I'm going to make this side comment. Like, I don't think this is with like forethought knowledge, but yeah, or the idea of Robin going back to her assassination ways, but she failed to kill Iceberg is interesting to me. I don't 100% remember the circumstances of why that is, but I think if Robin wanted to kill him, she could have easily. I don't exactly remember how that played out, or if she was even the one who tried to kill him in the first place.
Yeah, it could have been the big guy. Who knows? Like she's being brought around. Like something's happened here with this whole CP9 thing that this guy said, and it's again just Usopp has left the crew, and Robin has just tried to apparently kill the leader of this island.
Yeah.
Things are not going
I think
great.
Back to Aokiji's words and just, like, oh, that woman's nothing but trouble. You're going to regret it. And then just, like 20 chapters later, damn it.
Yep.
He was right.
Dang it.
We believed in you.
Well, again, dead serious chapters. A lot to chew on as far as character stuff. But
yeah.
Thankfully, the final 2 chapters we were able to get through a little quicker because, it's just... okay, time to put the gas pedal back on and have even more crap happening.
I think it's probably fair to say that was like the first act of Water 7 that we just wrapped up.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably a good way to put it.
Yeah, we were kind of transitioning into sort of the next section of the story.
Yeah, everything's been introduced. Now it's time to just go from there, I guess.
Yeah, piling more mysteries on mysteries.
That's the Oda way.
Man, I said this before. This is some of my favorite stuff. That Luffy and Usopp argument into their fight is just, I think, such a wonderfully heartbreaking moment for both of those characters. And is the kind of thing that I think I said earlier. You don't get it for free, and what I meant by that is more of like it doesn't kind of come out of nowhere, and that it's just been so masterfully built up to. Like you can only do that when you've had these characters interacting for the past 300 chapters.
Yeah, exactly. So, man, I love it. I love this arc so much.
Yeah, that's man. Oh, and it's only gonna get better, man. It's only gonna get better, or worse, depending on your
Depending on your view.
Yeah.
It's fascinating stuff. But with that, I believe we've said all we've wanted to say about chapters 331 to 335 of One Piece. Thank you so much for listening, and you can find more of my ramblings and stream VODs over at BitNerd Games on YouTube, or at BitNerd with an underscore at the end, or on Twitter. And Brandon, where can everyone find you at?
I'm at Brandon Bovia on Twitter, talking about anime, manga, games, and my job. Just kind of, more of the same.
No worries there. So yeah. Definitely check it out. And if you'd like to help us out more, you can support the podcast over at patreon.com/Derek Bittner. That's DERRICKBITNER to listen to the next episode 3 days early. And make sure to return next time as we discuss chapters 336 to 340 of One Piece. So until then, my friends, bye.
Remember to take life one piece at a time.
Luffy, I'm sorry I can't follow you anymore. And I'm sorry I was a pain till the bitter end. I know you're the captain of this ship, so the Mary belongs to you. That's why I want you to fight me, Monkey D. Luffy. I challenge you to a duel!